2021. And may we have the roll call, please?
Chairman McPherson,
Here.
Mayor Davis,
Here.
Councilman Trutzel,
Here.
Commissioner McDonough, Commissioner Monahan Bass, Commissioner Vest,
Here.
Commissioner Christie, Commissioner Anderson,
Here.
and Commissioner Warren.
Here.
All right, thank you. We do have the minutes before us from our March 1st meeting. Would there be a motion for accepting?
So moved.
Thank you. Have a motion. Is there a second? All right, thank you, Kara. Have a motion and second. Are there any questions, corrections, notes that need to be made to those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes as recorded, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion does carry. We'll call together a public hearing at this time. And just to give a little bit of explanation, there are two parts to the public hearing that we will be discussing this evening. The first is the consideration of a rezoning from the existing R3 multiple family residential district to an FCI flex commercial industry district, and a rezoning from the existing M1 light industrial district to an FCI flex commercial industrial district, with a preliminary development plan for the properties located at 6107 East 155th Street and 5901 East 155th Street to permit the development of Building 4 in the Southview Commerce Center. So that is Part A of the hearing. Part B will also be the consideration of a special use in an FCI flex commercial industrial district for warehousing for the property generally located on the south side of East 155th Street. Because the two are so intertwined with each other, we will be discussing both of those. So as we ask for comments and any information that you may have to speak in favor or against, as we have our public hearing and as we have the developer and their representatives here, I just want you to know that we are combining both of those into the one discussion because they are so intertwined that way. So with that, have called the public hearing together. Director, turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For members of the audience, my name is David Clements. I'm the Director of Planning and Building for the City of Belton. And as the chairman stated, this is a public hearing pertaining to the property generally on the south side of 155th Street, about 600 feet east of the South Outer Road. And the request is for a rezoning from an N1 light industrial district and an existing R3 multifamily district to the flex commercial industrial classification of the North Scott Corridor Plan and a preliminary development plan, and as the chairman stated, a related special use for warehousing. Now, as to some important background, Northpoint Development is currently the developer Southview Commerce Center and the applicant in this request. The Southview Commerce Center is the redevelopment of the former 148-acre golf course out on the Outer Road. Northpoint has successfully completed 3 buildings of approximately 2,100,000 square feet and leased those buildings to 3 national users. The plan under consideration this evening would be for the Planning Commission to take a look at the expansion of Southview Commerce Center for a proposed Building 4. Now, there's really a lot going on with this request, so I thought it would be good to take a look at existing conditions as part of that background. The application affects 2 large parcels of property, and I have existing conditions on the overhead. The property at 5901 East 155th Street is the former Century Concrete plant, and that is, if you can see my cursor, it is about a 5-acre site right here. That site has been vacant for about 15 years, And in staff report, I define it as a blighted property, and I think that's a fair assessment of it. We do have some photographs of existing conditions of the former concrete plant site. It's not very accessible from 155th Street. There's some barriers around it, but it was left in kind of a difficult condition by the former owner, Century Concrete. And we have had some code enforcement problems. There's been some problems with illegal dumping of branches and furniture. So this is an opportunity for the redevelopment of that site. The property also includes an existing telecommunications tower and ground compound that is in this portion of the 5-acre site. And that communication tower and ground compound would remain. The second site that's part of the rezoning application is about a 30-acre site at this location. It's presently improved with a single-family home and approximately 10 barns, garages, and outbuildings. I can't say specifically, but I think it used to be a family farmstead. Northpoint Development has that property under contract. The applicant's proposing, as we stated, to rezone these properties to the Flex Industrial District, the North Scott Corridor Plan. This is the same zoning classification that is in place for the existing Southview Commerce Center. The proposed Building 4 would be identical to the 3 existing buildings in Southview Commerce Center. Now, also important to point out, and very much related to this application, is the other item on the agenda entitled Southview Residential. This is a preliminary plat for new single-family lots that will be in approximately this location. Those lots are intended to provide open space and buffers to property to the east. And I'll talk more about that single-family subdivision as we get to that agenda item in just a few moments. Now, the Planning Commission has in their packet a narrative that the applicant put together. It is just their words, their summary of the application and some of their experiences, and it provides more information in addition to the staff report. Now we'll talk a little bit about the proposed development plan. Again, this was existing conditions. We'll get past the pictures of that. The proposed development plan is on the overhead now. This is for a 501,000 square foot single industrial building on the 27-acre site. This would be a cross-dock facility with dock doors on the east elevation and dock doors on the west elevation. The north elevation facing 155th Street would have office areas in both corners, as does the south elevation with office areas on those south corners. The building does generally meet all the requirements of the North Scott Corridor Plan in terms of building height, lot size, setbacks, and open space. The North Scott Corridor Plan has some specifics as to building design. As I stated earlier, the proposed building is identical to the 3 buildings in Southview Commerce Center, the same architecture, same design, materials, building articulation, and colors and details. So I won't go into too much information about that because those buildings are in place. But here is the elevation that was submitted with the plan. One of the nice design features that Northpoint did in the first 3 buildings was the corner offices have recessed entries. That's something that they did to meet our North Scott Corridor Plan, and something that Northpoint has not done in some of the other parks. So we think that that's a really nice treatment to provide a nicer pedestrian entry and recessed transparent glass. Going to scan through. I'm going to go back here. All right, thank you. The preliminary plan also includes a landscape plan and a major element of that landscape plan is an open space tract designed to provide screening and separation from nearby single-family homes. Again, the open space tract is a portion of the former Sunset Hills subdivision. There is a 10-foot berm that I'm indicating here with the cursor. That berm is planted with landscaping, has sections of board fence. It's identical to the berm design in Southview Commerce Center. There's also a stormwater detention basin here, second stormwater basin here, and some existing trees are being preserved in this portion of that open space tract. The applicant also, at our request, prepared a line of sight drawing. Went the wrong way, please excuse me. The line of sight drawing is probably difficult to see from where we might be sitting in the room tonight, but it does depict the building and the height at scale. It shows Valley Road, existing homes on Valley Road, and a sight line projecting through from the rear yard of the home on Valley Road through the existing tree line up to the building. And the important thing to emphasize here is that the overhead doors and the trailer parking on the east side of the building are screened by the berm and not visible from those homes. So folks on Valley Road will only see the top half of the building. Likewise, the line of sight drawing here shows Star Times Road and White Drive at this location. The topography is accurate and the scale is good, but it shows the berm, the landscaping, and the sight lines from residences on Star Times, and you can see that projects across to the top half of the building. And again, I think it's important to emphasize that the dock doors at this location, the trailer parking here, are not visible from the homes on Star Times, and the further to the east on White Avenue, even less so visible with those homes on White Avenue. They're approximately 900 feet away. So I do want to emphasize that this line of sight drawing does depict that the visibility of the building will be somewhat limited, and those types of activities that go on in the truck court and the overhead doors are not visible. So I hope that's clear in terms of an exhibit and an explanation for that. The landscape plan also provides for shade trees in the parking lots, along interior driveways, and appropriate landscaping building. Southview Commerce Center also has a very nice 8-foot multi-use trail network around the 3 existing buildings. That's carried forward into Building 4. The trail picks up at the front of this building and navigates down in between the detention basin and the 10-foot berm, and it also ties in here to the proposed single-family subdivision to tie into the existing trail network in the park. Detention, as I mentioned earlier, is at this location. This is a preliminary development plan. Detention is just conceptual at this point in terms of exact calculations. These basins are sufficient in terms of size, but construction documents will be prepared at the appropriate time to confirm calculations and actual stormwater management techniques. A traffic study was also submitted with the plan. Access is provided on 155th Street at this location. And there is a second point of access on Outer Road. There's a shared driveway with Building 3 that employees and trucks can access the rear of the building at this location. So 2 points of access for the building. And as the chairman mentioned, the request also includes a special use permit for warehousing. A special use permit is a zoning category for uses that require a public hearing approval, recommendation by the Planning Commission, approval by the City Council. Usually those things are done on a case-by-case basis, But as was done with the Southview Commerce Center in 2018, a special use permit was approved for the entire park, and that's what's being requested here, an additional special use permit for the new building. The purpose of that is that Northpoint would like the ability to lease the building to a potential warehouse user without having to come back through the public hearing process another time to gain approval for a specific use. So it allows Northpoint to move quickly on a possible lease, as they would not have to file a separate application, run that back through the public hearing process. And again, that was something that was discussed with the initial Southview Commerce Center rezoning in 2018. It was deemed appropriate by the City Council. Next in the staff report, there are some rezoning criteria and findings of fact, and those are summarized for consideration of the Planning Commission. There's about a page and a half of analysis there, and I'm not going to go all through that for you, but some of those things I will highlight is that the Planning Commission needs to make findings on the consistency with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan, and this proposed plan does meet the guidelines of the North Scott Corridor Plan, so the Planning Commission can know that there's consistency with that adopted overlay district. Also talk briefly about the suitability for the property as it's presently zoned. The former concrete plant is zoned zoned M1. It's essentially a small 5-acre site. There's some development issues with that property. The grade's difficult. Century and Concrete left the site in kind of a rather deteriorated, blighted condition, and it just does not lend itself for redevelopment of the individual property because of those existing conditions. The R3 property is zoned R3 for multifamily apartments perhaps, and there may be a market for multifamily at that location, but the staff has not seen any trend of development for apartments at this location, and there has been no discussions of apartments on that site. So tying the 30-acre R3 tract and the M1 properties together does make some sense in terms of the best redevelopment opportunity. The zoning code also requires the Planning Commission to make a finding on trend of development in the area. And I think the most obvious thing is that, as I stated, the zoning for Southview Commerce Center was approved in 2018, and that was just 2.5 years ago. And the Northpoint has been able to come forward and develop 2,100,000 square feet, creating approximately 2,000 jobs for the community. So I think that's a very strong and favorable trend of development in this corridor along I-49 that is an indicator that redevelopment of this site might be appropriate considering that established trend of development with the Southview Commerce Center. And also important is the code states that the Planning Commission should make findings that the zoning amendment does not materially affect nearby properties. I hope that the line of sight drawings that I demonstrated earlier will show that the visibility of the building is somewhat limited. As I stated earlier, homes on White Avenue are about 900 feet away. Valley Drive is, homes on Star Times, are 500 feet away, and Valley Drive is about 159 feet away. And we'll talk more about the proposed Southview residential plat that's being proposed here, because I think that's a really key part of this redevelopment request, and that's the later agenda item this evening. So with that, I will conclude. Thank you all for letting me walk through this staff report for you this evening. The staff report does include a recommendation, and staff does conclude and recommend that the Planning Commission recommend approval of the rezoning from the M1 and R1 to the FCI and approval of the preliminary development plan and that special use permit with the 10 conditions that are outlined in the staff report. I'd be happy to answer any questions for the Planning Commission, and a representative of Northpoint Development is present for some additional comments and testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. I would like to ask, go ahead. I see you moving towards our podium. You've been here before and been through this, so you know the drill, I know. But first of all, I want you to know, appreciate the narrative that you furnished for us and gave some of the the ability for us to read through some of your thoughts and all. I know a lot of our citizens haven't maybe had the opportunity to read that narrative, even though it's been on the city website. So if you could just kind of walk us through what you have provided that way as well, I think that would be great for our citizens to hear.
Okay. Well, can you all hear me? Okay. I don't have the specific narrative in front of me right now, but maybe what we'll do is we'll go through the presentation. If there's specific questions that in terms of the
that will
narrative I
work.
didn't cover. Okay, great. Well, good evening. My name's Chris Chancellor with Northpoint Development, offices at 4825 Northwest 41st Street, Riverside, Missouri. We appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you this evening, have this case heard. Mr. Clements, thank you for your presentation. Did an outstanding job of explaining our plan and proposal here tonight. But we'll just walk through, and some of this information is, somewhat duplicative of what Mr. Clements has already gone through. But I'll give you kind of, some context as we go through here. A little bit about us. Many of you are already familiar with Northpoint Development. But so for the purposes of brevity, I'll just kind of hit the highlights here. Over the past 9 years, we've been successful in aggregating, really developing and maintaining a 90 million square feet and growing portfolio of industrial development. So, why is that important for us is because we like to own long-term what we develop. And so, there's a philosophy in the industry that you would build it, lease it, and then sell it off to the next user and, make some reward off of that. Our philosophy is a little different. We certainly have sold properties in the past. Specific users sometimes are required to own certain properties. But, I would say by far and large, we tend to own what we develop and keep it for the long term. So, that's important for a couple of reasons. One, the high quality and standard that we set in our developments of building materials, landscaping, how we maintain our properties, all of those things are important. And especially so when you intend to own the property, for the next 10, 15, and 20 years. So, we have offices in multiple states, locations now, but obviously Kansas City is, our corporate office. Riverside is where we started with our Horizons Industrial Park, which, we've modeled most of our buildings here after the Horizons development that we have in Riverside. What you see down at the bottom is just kind of what we call the NASCAR logos, if you will, of tenants, a lot of Fortune 500, 200. Some of those names are obviously very familiar with to you all. With Chewy, taking our building 3 and then leasing up the last of the space that we have available in the existing park, and therefore driving the need to expand. So this is a more of a regional map. Really, I can fully appreciate we all know where Belton is and that we're here right now, so you don't need a map to show you. But really the context here is just to show you that what we've labeled here are other projects in the KC metro area, and where Southview Commerce Center sits in relationship to those other projects. So, we've had the good fortune of being here in kind of the southeast corner of the metro. The southeast corner of the metro has, some of the lowest vacancy rates and great absorption. And so it's a great location. We love being at this park. And, a testament to that would be we were here 3 years ago having this conversation about the redevelopment of the golf course. And at the time, we said, this is probably realistically a 5 to 7 year project. Well, flash forward 3 years, here we are with 3 buildings looking to expand, and so hugely successful, a testament to, the workforce and the city relationship in general. This is the overall site plan. I think Mr. Clements had, quite a few slides of just our submittal with Building 4. But just to show you and give a little context to how Building 4 fits with the overall relationship of the park itself. So you can see we're sitting just north of Building 3 and south of 155th Street. Highlighted in yellow, just to the east of Building 4, is the residential that Mr. Clements identified that we'll talk about in just a little bit. So zooming in, so this is the what's in front of you tonight is the rezoning from M1 and R3 to FCI. Subject to the North Scott overlay corridor plan. And so just to give it some context, what I thought I would do is, show you that the zoning that you have immediately to the west of the building is a mix of M1 and R3. So M1, where the storage units are right now today, that M1 currently comes into the site and covers the what was the Century Concrete plant that was owned, I believe, by Ash Grove. And you saw some photos of that site. And then just to the south of that is still the Century Concrete plant. It's about 9 acres, but that was a split zoning, some M1 at the north end and R3 at the south end. Then the second tract that we have is about 18 acres, where the majority of Building 4 sits. That's existing zoning R3. And then as you get to that large tract line here, that becomes the existing R1 zoning, Sunset Hills second plat. What's important here is that, when we, at the outset, when we went to purchase or tie up the ground, we certainly looked at the concrete plant and the what we call the creosote tract, which is, really this area here. But in addition to that, we also went and tied up as many of the residential lots as we possibly could. And we did that for a couple of different reasons. The first and foremost is we needed room to do berming, some landscaping, some additional plantings that we wanted to do. But really, our goal was to control that residential and to protect some of the existing residential as much as we possibly could. So in the end, we want to see that redevelop as residential, kind of in this area that I identified. But, our goal is really to kind of hang on to that, let Building 4 get started, and that way those who come in to purchase those lots and build homes there will know, the views that they get, that we've kind of gone through tonight. So, really a slide really dealing more with the residential zoning. We'll let, maybe bypass that in the interest of time, more so for the next case that we'll talk about with the preliminary plat of the Southview residential. So this exhibit really talk about the public utilities related to the site. So it may be a little difficult to see this, and I apologize, but what's key here is that most all the utilities to serve this existing building are just an extension of the utilities that we have in the park right now. So at the outset, one of the things that we set out to do was, simply take the water main that essentially, it's a little difficult to see, but this dashed line comes up and down the cul-de-sac and back into the neighborhood to our east on, ties in at Allen Avenue. So that tie-in, when we agreed to do that several years ago, was really to help build the pressures and flow that for the neighborhood, to get another water main tie-in to kind of the west end of the system there. So initially what we talked about doing was running the water main up the frontage road and coming in and getting service to our building at that location. The more we sat and discussed the project with staff, it became abundantly clear that there's some issues in the neighborhood with water service. And so some mains, specifically that one on Allen Avenue, is an existing 6-inch main, has, some maintenance issues, leaks, has some frequent breaks. So one of the things that we talked about doing was, in lieu of just extending this main and getting service to our building, we would apply, that extension to, reworking this main in Allen Avenue, if you can kind of see where the cursor is, and then be able to upgrade that main, replace it in its entirety, upgrade it from a 6-inch to an 8-inch main, tie in to the existing main that's on 157th Street, the 8-inch main, and then serve our building that way. So, there's kind of two, I would say generally 3 parts to the water service to serve this building. The first part is, working with the city to get this 6-inch main upsized, replaced to an 8 so that we can serve the building. The second piece is there's an existing 8-inch main that kind of runs through the middle of the site now today to serve the Grand Hill development, the 2 cul-de-sacs with the townhomes on the outer road. And, part of this project will relocate that water main down and around and tie it into the proposed single-family development here at White and 157th. The third part is really, generally a public-private partnership whereby, we would continue to replace the main from 155th Street down to 157th Street as part of this project, and then work with the city to see that this portion of the main on Allen from 160th down to 162nd Street also gets replaced, and an extension up 162nd to tie back into the frontage road where that 12-inch water main exists here. So really to kind of complete the loop and to create like another loop that really helps pressures and flow within the neighborhood itself. The building elevations, I would say, Dave did a great job of kind of walking through those. So, unless anybody has some specific questions about those, in fact, I would say, given the size of this, Dave's were probably a little bit better to review. But I would just say that, these building elevations are very similar to Building 1 in the park today. And that those, those same kinds of what we call dog ears sometimes, or kind of the wings on the corner of the buildings that, oh, thank you. The wings on the corner of the buildings that come out and kind of help to screen the truck court and the truck docks, especially from 155th Street, also, from other residential areas as well. That's kind of an additional thing that we've done here. We've done that in some projects, generally speaking, not all over the country. I mean, this is here, and a couple of other projects I can think of are, kind of the limited use that we would do to put those offices in the corners, like Dave was suggesting here. And here again, I just, these are the same cross sections that Mr. Clements provided and talked through just a second ago. I would say that, just a point of clarification, that, as we've turned the site plan, so now we're looking south as opposed to, looking north, but really just in the interest of being able to align yourself. This is section A, kind of right through here. And, the idea being that, we tried to set the building down roughly the same finished floor elevation as the homes over here. And, try to use as much of the existing screening, tree line that's right through this area here, and keep as many of those trees as possible. So as we continue to, work on the final engineering with our consultant, we'll continue to progress that design to keep as many of those trees and create, a large buffer of natural vegetation to help screen the building from that residential area. So you can kind of see, with the stand of trees that we have there that we're planned to leave in place, the idea to, as Mr. Clements pointed out, to, cover up the truck docks. You'll certainly be able to see the top of the building, but the truck docks themselves, and the trucks, and the vehicles that, park in this end of the building would all be screened by that vegetation. The other thing to point out in section B that kind of runs right along here, this is the existing house that's over on White, but the houses that we represent here are an additional buffer we talked about a few minutes ago, kind of in between White and the proposed development of Building 4. So, these are future houses that would go in here as we develop the single family as part of the plan. So that concludes my presentation, and again, glad to be here tonight. Be glad to answer any questions that you have, and thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, we'll open it up if you all have any questions, either for the applicant or for the director. Mr. Trutzel.
You mentioned the water line, the public-private partnership.
Yes, sir.
I know it's a substantial amount of money, but we need to let people know about what much money is going to cost that water line to be moved around and replaced.
So I would tell you in round numbers, that it's probably on the order, the whole project, I would have to, I don't know that I can answer that question tonight in terms of like the entire whole project, but I will tell you that just this portion that's in red is probably about on the order of just shy of $1 million of investment.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commissioners before? All right, then I do have several names that have indicated that they would like to speak. I don't know if these are in favor or against. And so I'm just going to call on the names. I'm going to ask you when you come to the podium, and then if you will just state if you are speaking in favor of the change to the zoning, or if you are against that, and then go ahead and present your statement to the commission at that point. So first name I have, Tim, is that Gary?
Yes.
All right.
All right, good evening. I live on White Drive, which is going to border this. I live on the west side, so my back of my house will come, faces directly to the development here, and this is a fairly new house. We built it less than 5 years ago. Most of the houses on the west side of White Drive were built less than 5 years ago. Only a couple were there from the original development, and it is still Sunset Hill. And when we built and we considered where we wanted to build, a big aspect of that was, how is this zoned? What's going to go on in this field behind me? And we saw that it was an extended single-family residential facility. And so, as many people, we decided to make the biggest investment of our life and build our home there. So ultimately, our expectation and what we would consider a promise from the city of Belton is we were embedding ourselves in a community. We were embedding ourselves in a neighborhood that eventually would encompass the entire zoned area. This home is a unique home, our home. It's a special handicap home for our son who's in a wheelchair. And it's not, if we don't like it, it's not like we can get up and move. And so we're there for the long haul. And we moved within the metro specifically to Belton because we like Belton. We like the city. We like the size of it. We liked its proximity. And so what I'm asking is that the Planning Commission consider all of these folks that have built these homes here with the concept that we would have a neighborhood behind us, not just a few houses, but an entire 40-some homes that is platted out there, that be considered. I have had meetings at my house and the rest of the neighborhood. We've been aware of this for some time. We've talked to all the neighbors on White Drive and up on 157th. I can tell you universally, every single person's opposed to this. We want a neighborhood behind us. We want single-family homes. That's what we built for. That's what we sort of paid for when we bought our house, and we hope the Planning Commission here will take that into serious consideration of the wishes and desires of the local residents and why we went there. So that's essentially what I wanted to say tonight, so thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gary. Appreciate your comments. Director, can I ask a question of you quickly? I know that we are going to be talking about the neighborhood, but approximately how many homes are we talking about that are going to be put into that residential area?
About 22.
About 22 homes going in there, okay. So we're not talking just a couple of houses that are going to be sprinkled in there. I mean, when it's developed, we're talking about a pretty good development in that area.
And yeah, I mean, these are important questions, and Sunset Hills, the vacant Sunset Hills is 56 lots at this point in time, and the proposed replat that we'll be discussing later in the agenda provides 22 homes.
Okay.
Plus the open space buffer. The entirety of Sunset Hills is going to remain R1 single family. It says that there won't be 56 homes, there'll be 22 homes plus the buffer and preservation of open space and tree line.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that in just a little
Right.
bit. But
I knew that was
good
coming, but I thought
clarification.
that might help to, as we're putting in perspective right now, to know the number. So, all right, next person that I have to speak, Linda McKelvey.
Good evening, and I am Linda McKelvey. I also live on White Drive on the west side of the street. I moved here less than 3 years ago from Springfield and relocated to be near family. Before I moved up here, I actually looked at the overview of the area and noted that there were single-family lots behind me, and I was thrilled with that, thinking that the neighborhood would progress to that point. I was sorely disappointed when it was rezoned and the Northpoint buildings were constructed after I moved here. First of all, I'd like to say that I was disappointed. I received no written notification at this time for this proposed rezoning, or I would have been better prepared, I think, to present tonight. I am opposed to it. I forgot to mention that first off.
Thank you.
And I think we need to consider the impact of the nearby residents, both as far as property values and our quality of life. I think it's naive to assume that the berm and the buffer that he's discussed will either visually or auditorily restrict what we can see or hear. And I say that because right now when I look out my dining room window, instead of a nice little view southwest, I now see a big gray building, which yes, will eventually be brown or tan, but right now it is gray. And that has already obstructed my visual aesthetics from my dining room window. I think we need to review or at least consider the community at large as far as the resources, the increased demand for public, fire, utilities, infrastructure. I think I hear them talk about access to the buildings, but what about those streets that have already been repaved? And I'm discussing the outer road. It's already been repaved and starting to deteriorate just within a short amount of time. I've noticed an increase on both 163rd to the outer road in traffic. I've noted an increase in traffic on 155th to where it goes to the outer road. And I think you need to consider not just us and our immediate community, but also the residents that utilize 155th Street and utilize 163rd Street from 49 Highway and going further east. I think I appreciate a community that wants to advance forward, that wants to provide economic and financial growth to its community. But I also think we need to consider the residents of that community. When we move in and then we all of a sudden have these industrial parks around us, that's negatively impacting me as a resident. And what I'm going to tell other people to move there, I'm going to say, well, just make sure wherever you move that it's in the center of a neighborhood. So I think you need to consider that. I think we all want financial improvement, which will better our community. But I think you also need to consider residential improvements, residential growth, which then goes into property taxes for the schools, which then pulls in more residents, because that's really what the community is the residents. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Linda. And Director, another question for you. Notice was sent out for, prior to this, was it not?
Correct.
And how many?
Well, state statutes, here, please let me respond. State statutes requires notice of public hearing to property owners within 185 feet of the perimeter of the rezoning property. So that's what our code requires, that's state statutes, and some of the homes on White Avenue are approximately 900 feet away, so it's just beyond the statutory requirement for notice, but, okay, well, that's fine. So, yeah, that's the requirement.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Next person that I have, Bianca, and I hope I'm pronouncing it, Kiersey? Kirby, I'm sorry.
My name is Bianca Kirby, and we live on White Drive at 157th Street, where you're wanting to do the proposal of the sewer and everything else. We built our house about 4 years ago, a little bit over 4 years ago, with the assumption that there was going to be houses back there. Matter of fact, we were even going to buy a lot behind us, so we had extra behind us, because we thought it was a great area. We knew that there was possibility of, sidewalks and kids and so forth, and that's what we bought into. We did not buy into big concrete buildings. When Northpoint started off this, it was supposed to be 5 buildings, and all of a sudden, we found out after the fact, here comes Chewy's, and it's got this gigantic building. We were not prepared for that. We were not even told anything, but we as residents have to put up with this stuff. We have cracks in our basement because of all the blasting that's gone on, because of this contraption going on there. You do not buffer anything out. Our neighbors that are literally on 155th Street, which is right between us and them, there is no buffering whatsoever. The berms are not like they said they're supposed to be. They took down perfectly good trees that were literally on the fence line that could have been great buffering, like you said that was supposed to happen on this new project. We could have had the same thing and that would have been perfect landscape. That's all gone. How do we know that what they say that they said they were going to do is going to happen? We went from 5 warehouses to 3, and it's huge, and now all of a sudden they want to take some more to make another warehouse that we have to put up with. We have so much truck traffic down 155th Street as it is. It takes forever me to get out of my driveway, out of our street, to get down 155th Street. We've almost been hit head on coming down the outer road because trucks swing wide on there, and there's no 3 lanes, and there's no curbs on the side. So your truck traffic is coming out like crazy. They make the big swing, which what trucks have to do, and you come over a hill, and you get head-on hit. And those roads are starting to deteriorate, and they were just put in by Fahey Construction, which is a good construction company, and they're already deteriorating. So who's going to do the upkeep for those? Is it going to be the city of Belton that's going to have to upkeep all of that? Who's going to actually pay for all of the water lines that are going to be put in? Is that going to be part of Belton's responsibility and Northpoint that we have to do that? We have enough problems as ourselves with our budget to do what we have to do, and then we're going to commit ourselves to do part of what they want to also increase, and that's puts the burden on us as the taxpayer. You know, we already can't afford the water bills as it is, and now you want to possibly commit our portion of it, of us putting in the water lines on top of it. You know, if they want to put the building in, and if it overrides us, which it probably will because it did the last time, they should be the ones responsible for putting 100% of all the infrastructure that they want to have completed. They need to widen it outer road to 3 lanes. Let them do that. If that's what they want to do so badly, let them do that 100%, not the city of Belton. Because we're tired of taking all the tax breaks for all these big companies, and we're the ones who suffer for this. I mean, it's getting crazy. And it's our street. We've talked to the people on Valley. We've talked to the other people. They're not happy about this. We talked to people on Allen Street. We know a lot of people around there. We talk to them all the time. Nobody is happy about it. I mean, the berms, they're a joke. The way they want to do it is a joke. We look at them, there's nothing behind us. All you see is building. And if we have this kind of, do what you want to do, change the plans whenever you want to, this is, we'll probably have to put up with it like we did the last time. And we have, like I said, we have cracks in our basement. I'm sure other people have it too. But it's like they work at night and everything else, and it's like we have no peace at our house. None. And we probably won't when all this construction starts again and all the trucks start coming in, because they're going to be running all the time. And, us as residents, we don't have any say-so. That's how we all feel. Thank you.
Thank you, Bianca. And Pete Kirby.
Hello, I'm Pete Kirby. I'm very much against this. What do we have in the way of any concrete? When you say what you're going to do, you're going to do. We were told at a meeting at the beginning of this, we're going to have this and this. And you've already changed even the sidewalks. Started out concrete. Then you pour-boyed it and put asphalt in there. So what's going to happen? You said how pretty this is going to be. You look at the front side over by that church. It's a nice berm. Looks good to everybody in Belton driving by. Go down Allen Street and look at it. Seriously. It goes up and down. A little bitty fence here. Nothing what they was told. That's all I got to tell you.
Okay, thank you, Pete. Okay, that concludes all the ones that had signed up to speak. Once again, I would open it up if there are any questions, comments from the commission. We will close the public hearing, I'm sorry. We will close the public hearing at this point and then open it for additional comments and questions from the from the commission. Mr. Warren.
Do we have any data or anything that suggests that the property values will go down?
No, I don't have any assessment information that could give us any information about that, no, sir.
I have a question about the traffic. I've had a few residents report that they're having truck traffic on 155th and also on Allen from some residents that aren't here tonight. Do we have any reasoning of why trucks would be going in on Allen? I mean, I can see why they'd come down 155th, but coming through Allen, I just didn't know if we could give some clarification.
Well, that's an ongoing issue, and I think some of those truck drivers' GPS just erroneously takes them down Allen Avenue, the information I have, and we, talk to Northpoint management about that frequently. And I believe Allen has posted no truck traffic, but
No, it's not.
but it's going to be a problem as long as we have the construction going on, and we're sensitive to it as we can be, as is Northpoint. But they've got different vendors and different suppliers and different trucks, so a lot of moving parts there too.
I do have one question for, I think Director probably would be the best one to direct this question to as well. On one of the drawings that we had in the packet, in the corner of the building, it did indicate Learning and Career Center. Can we? Do we have, is there someone already set in place that we have that is interested in this, or what is that indicating?
That is in one of the corner offices of the building, and it's a job training facility for Metropolitan Community College for technical training. The city's been hoping Metropolitan Community College could have some facility in Belton for quite a while, and Northpoint has stated they would work with the city to provide some floor space for that. So it's a training facility for the community college.
So it's not like we've got somebody already lined up and set in stone or anything like that, but that would just be space for the college to use.
Overall, the building's a speculative building, and they would be marketing the space at some point in the future.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Mr. Tretzel.
I think part of the problem is when you see vacant ground, you assume always that it's going to be vacant ground, and that's not realistic. We're facing the same situation we faced with when Northpoint came, and that is it's always been vacant ground, therefore it'll be vacant ground forever, ever, and ever. And the answer is no, 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 it will not be. I live next to area that is farmland right now, and commercial to the north of me. And I will say this, that I realized when I bought there's nobody that guarantees anything. And in some place along the future, there's going to be something there, whether it's going to be residential or it's going to be commercial, I don't know. I can't control it. I don't own it. I couldn't afford to buy it if I could. And I think it's a misnomer to think that just because there's great land across the street, some of it is pretty rough looking, that it's going to stay that way. when you go over to Kansas, there are a number of places over there where you have commercial buildings, and right beside it are residential. It's one of those situations that comes in the future. And they've learned, in Kansas at least, they've learned to deal with that issue. They do try to put some kind of differential between the two. And in real estate, it's pretty common to use the duplexes and those kind of things as a buffer between residential and commercial. As much as I can understand when you're dislike for what's going on, it's unrealistic to expect something not to happen there in the future, and the future is here now. And I will say that of all the possibilities there, this is probably the one of the better ones. And so, you know, and contrary to what you may think, Northpoint has done an excellent job of putting up buildings that are at least reasonably looking as a commercial building. I will also say that I've been over in Kansas where I've seen commercial buildings of this same nature that are sitting empty. So not only has Northpoint been able to build these buildings, but they've been able to occupy them as well. So that's a real plus in their standpoint. They do what they say they're going to do, and you know, I think at the same time they try to address the issues that people dislike, and but again, it's just one of those situations where they try to do their best they can, and I'm sure that not everybody will be happy. Thank you.
Thank you. I know the area where the concrete plant had been. I think it was stated that it had been 15 years that it has sat vacant. How long has the other area, since it was platted, how long has that been? And has there been any kind of interest at all in continuing development there?
Of Sunset Hills?
Yes.
Well, Sunset Hills was platted in 2005,
Okay.
and the area, or the proposed replat by Northpoint, there's been no discussion about any permit activity there.
Are there any?
I have a question. Oh, I'm
All
sorry.
right. Ms. Vest.
I completely empathize with the residents. Where we live, my parents lived there since 1972. There was a field forever, and it was fine. It was great. And then they built houses 10 or 15 years after we lived there, and that's not so bad, but the houses are literally on top of, so anyway, I completely empathize with residents. I think the appealing part to Northpoint's plan is the jobs and what that offers for our community in terms of revenue. That also helps in terms of our community and the school district. And I only speak that from being a retired teacher. At the same time, I think it would be helpful to have an idea of what this building does to the property value. Right now in Belton, because we just recently bought a smaller house for my daughter, I know the property value in Belton is soaring. Houses that you would assume wouldn't cost very much, because I watch HGTV all the time, and I think, oh my gosh, you could buy that for $50,000, $60,000, turn it right around and flip it, are twice that, and they're getting it. We can't even, in Belton, we can't keep houses that are already built on the market, and I randomly look at those from time to time. Finished, unfinished, damaged, whatever. So I think I would be very interested in what the assessment would be if we could possibly do some sort of a study or whatever on their behalf, and generally speaking, what the current value would be in different areas of Belton, average house, I'm not sure. But I just think that would be, I know if I were a resident in that area, I would know how that would affect my property value. So is that something we could look into, or?
Well, I guess I don't know how that would be done. If you really want to measure effect on property values and assessed valuation, you'd have to have the building there.
Okay,
So appraisers could look at the building and try to determine its impact on those adjoining properties.
they couldn't do it like a proposal in terms of what's already there. You can't do it that way.
You would just be speculating on what the impact would be
Okay,
if you did not have the building physically there to analyze.
okay.
And these are good points, and again, I've said before, and the homes on White are 900 feet away, and I know that you will see the building, but the plan you see before you today is evolved through several different designs, and the staff was, from probably our first day, and I'm sure Chris would say this, the staff was very concerned about the adjoining single-family homes, and it was something that we talked about every step of the process. And this plan is better because of that. This plan is better because the new single-family homes will create a buffer to the existing single-family homes. And the land area of Sunset Hills is going to remain zoned single-family. And there'll be 22 single-family lots there instead of 56, in addition to the buffer and the preserved open space. So I think it's really a plan that's as sensitive to the existing single-family homes as possible. Granted, there's going to be a 47 tall-foot building there, but that's what you get along Interstate 49. When you have these kinds of trends of development and trucking and corridors. No.
The public hearing has closed, I'm afraid, at this point. Sorry.
I think you need to work with citizens and you need to provide some landscaping to these poor folks who are butting up against these buildings.
I'm sorry, the public hearing has closed.
I don't care, this is ridiculous. Work with the people that voted you into office.
All right. Mr. Warren.
I echo exactly what you're saying. I think there's got to be a way to have some kind of impact on what industrial will do to a neighborhood that close. I empathize with all you in that if it was me, I'd probably be a little uncomfortable as well. I've served in another city as a councilman. We had a lot of issues with blight there, and it's attractive to me to go, you know what, this is a great opportunity to turn some of that around. But I'm also, like Commissioner Vest, I look at housing a lot around here to see, what's available, what's on the market. So I know this is in front of us right now, but I'm a little hesitant to maybe let this kind of wait out a little bit to see if someone wants to build something there, because we have several jobs coming in. Thank you for the buildings that are there now. I just think that maybe this would be an opportunity for more housing. And I get there's 22, but what is it now, for 54 right now? So, I mean, there's opportunity there, it's just not at our doorstep right now. And I think that's where I'm kind of hesitant, and that's just kind of where I'm at. We have such an issue with housing right now, that I think it just gives us more opportunity to provide housing, rather than, I get this is on our table right now, but I think a little bit of time to see, you know, I don't know, I don't know that the timing's right.
I guess my question has to do with
I'm sorry, but we are not open for questions from the public. I'm sorry. I do understand, and I am not opposed to what either Commissioner Vest or Commissioner Warren have stated. My concern, and that was the purpose for my question earlier, is how long has this property sat empty? And we're talking 15 years, in both cases, at least 15 years that it has been sitting empty with no interest. We have, over the last several months, approved additional housing plans and plats for several different housing areas within the city of Belton, as well as approving for multifamily with the apartments. And so I guess my concern is we have something before us today. We've got property that's been sitting empty for 15 years. And are we willing to speculate? I'm just throwing this out. I have not made my decision yet, to be honest. But I'm just in throwing this out. Are we willing to speculate that maybe something better will come along and it sits for another 15 years because nobody else wants to do anything with it? Or do we want to take what we have before us today? As far as as far as the housing is concerned, I could see if this was butting up right against the housing that is currently in place, that it could be a concern. The fact that we've got several rows of additional housing that's going in, I do not see where that would have an adverse effect personally, and I'm not an expert in real estate, but I would not see that having an adverse effect to the homes that are already there, because the other homes are going to be coming in, and the ones that buy those homes and those lots at that point are going to know what they're getting. And so, you know, those are the things that I'm weighing myself as far as trying to think through. Ms. Anderson.
I'm not sure if it'll help any for the commissioners, but I do sell real estate, and it's my full-time career, and I do sell quite a few properties that do butt up to properties like this that are much closer. There actually would be more like the lots that we have that would be available to build on. With regards to appraisals, we don't see that big of an issue when it comes to butting to a commercial property or to a warehouse property. We see more issues with appraisals when it's butting to or adjoining to like an apartment complex or a highway, a busy road. We even have appraisal issues when it comes to cell phone towers or water towers. Those cause more of an issue, but I've not had an issue with any property values or any issue with appraisals backing to this type. I do also work with lots of builders and lots of contacts in this particular subdivision, and they have had a harder time selling there, not because of Northpoint, just simply because we haven't had as much marketing for the area and things like that. So I haven't heard as much interest, like you were saying, for the 15 years that it's sat. We haven't seen as much builder opportunity. They aren't as eager to market there and to try and develop. Just my 2 cents.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
I'm taking it all in, and I drove up for years up into the concrete plant and have seen things that no person should ever see in that concrete area, where the homeless people, drug deals, crime, all kinds of big time stuff in that area, totally blighted. I'm trying to think of all the cases I've seen of homeless people in that area that live there, and then they're gone. I've seen people do chop shops on bicycles, where they put them together, take them apart, where they've stolen bicycles, and they change them up, and they do them right out in the open, when anybody can see them. On the appraisal property, the values of the houses it's not gonna go down. Right now, the houses, they're not gonna go down. It's because you're 900 feet away on White Avenue, it's gonna be a difference. Yes, you're right on I-49. How many more feet is that to I-49?
Well, it's probably about 600 feet east of I-49.
Okay, so I'm saying that if you look at the assessed values, right now in Belton, assessed values, yours went up probably on the last assessment, went up 20,000 at least. I would say more?
Less.
Okay. In Belton, most of them are going up 20,000 right now, and people are asking 40,000 more throughout the city. I mean, it's happening that way. The buffer will make a difference. It will truly make a difference. And it's tough because it's new. I wouldn't want to go into a place where it's been nice and it's beautiful. But to think that an abandoned properties are going to stay like that is really naive. It's going to have to be developed. You can't just leave it there. You just can't. And as far as the crime and everything goes, it's going to get worse. You've got to know that this isn't a slap at anybody or anything like that. You got to know that you've got beautiful homes in there. They're nice. And this board and no council wants people to suffer at all. But again, I am totally amazed at what the projects are going with, the part that they're going to do with the school district, with the Ford NGL. That's a big factor for our kids in school. That is a big deal. And with the Ford NGL, kids don't have to try to fit in one little box. The Ford NGL is training these people for other jobs other than you're going to go to college. And the data will show you that most of these kids, how many do you know that have spent their life savings for a degree and then they don't utilize their degree? We need people that do regular jobs. This really helps. This training facility that they're going to have out there will be a big factor. Northpoint this is a national, what did I see on there today? That are they number one in warehousing in America? And they picked Belton, Missouri. And that's a big factor. That is a great thing. And it's this is going to help on the money that'll come in for infrastructure that has to be replaced. Belton was built around a base, and that was a long time ago. The infrastructure is crumbling all around, and it's online. Everybody can see it. And we talk about the water prices. How are we going to replace all this stuff? It's going to take 20 years to replace that. Now, in a new area, you get new water lines. But you're not going to get those in a lot of places in the city we just did a study on Main Street, and I think we found out that there are houses that were built in 1870 to 1930. This, with the jobs, is our number one strategic plan. Number one plan is jobs. With that comes growth. With that comes people and houses. We have houses being built all over the city right now. How many houses are for sale right now in Belton? So again, this is an opportunity that I don't see how Belton can pass up on this. This is, people all over the country are envious right now for what we have. Yes, I'm sympathetic. I would like to, yes, I am. Yeah, I'd like to be able to see, that you all are happy. Again, do you really think it's just gonna sit there forever like that? I mean, honestly, it's gonna change everywhere. I've said enough.
Mr. Trussell.
Motion to approve the rezoning from the existing M1 to NR3 district to FCI Flex, Commercial Industrial District of the North Scott Corridor Overlay District plus guidelines with a preliminary development plan and a motion to approve a special use for warehousing.
Okay, let me just state, we do need to separate those two, even though we've taken those into consideration as part of a joint public hearing, but we do need to do those as two complete, separate. So,
Just to move the rezoning then.
so basically the item A under the public hearing. We have a motion. Is there a second? Okay, have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none, can we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Vest,
Yay.
Commissioner Warren,
Yeah.
Commissioner Anderson,
Here.
Mayor Davis.
Aye.
Councilman Trussell,
Aye.
and Chairman McPherson.
Aye. The motion does carry for the rezoning of that area. And at this time, we could consider a motion for the second part, which would be for the special use permit. All right, we do have a motion for the special use permit approval. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we have the roll call?
Commissioner Vest,
Aye.
Commissioner Warren,
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
Mayor Davis,
Aye.
Councilman Trussell, and Chairman McPherson.
Aye. All right, that concludes the items we had under the public hearing. We do have, under non-public hearing, consideration for a preliminary plat for Southview Residential located on the south side of 155th Street at Valley Drive and Start Times Drive Extended. Director.
Okay, well, the machine fell asleep. Jordan, can you help me get back on? All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a follow-up to your introduction, this is an application for approval of a preliminary plat for Southview Residential located on the south side of 155th Street at Valley Road and Star Times Extended. Application is filed by Northpoint Development. We talked about this with the rezoning of the adjoining M1 and R3 parcels, but specifically, and to build the record, this preliminary plat is for 22 new residential lots to be developed east of Building 4. The purpose of this subdivision is to provide new residential lots to serve as a buffer for the existing family homes on White Drive and Star Time Drives from Building 4. As we mentioned, the property in Sunset Hills was final platted in 2005, and that's the document that we have here. The subdivision provided for the extension of Star Times, provided the extension of Valley Road at this location to 157th Street to the south, with a curved street connecting there and about 53 lots in that subdivision. No building permits have been issued for construction for new homes in Sunset Hills. And this final plat for Sunset Hills is what we have depicted here on the overhead. At this time, Northpoint is proposing to replat or vacate the existing Sunset Hills for the purpose of creating 22 new single-family lots and for providing an open space and tree preservation area, detention, and landscape berm and trail. Here is the proposed plat. The plat indicates Star Times Drive would be extended all the way down to 157th Street. 157th Street would be extended east-west, terminating in a cul-de-sac. Presently, Valley Road is a stub street, and it's important that we get a cul-de-sac for turnaround of emergency vehicles at the end of Valley Road with 2 lots here. The proposed lots are about 15 to 17,000 square feet. The minimum lot size in the R1 district is 8,400 square feet, so the proposed lots are essentially twice as big as the minimum lot size in the R1 district. The cul-de-sac lots are even bigger. Some of the cul-de-sac lots range up to 22,000 square feet. The area to the west, again, this is all zoned R1 single family. The R1 zoning parameters will not change with the proposed Northpoint development. Again, this is just a replat or vacation of Sunset Hills, but there is a approximate 7-acre open space tract that provides stormwater management for the proposed building, along with a 10-foot landscape berm providing a physical separation between the new single-family homes, existing single-family homes to the east. There'll be some tree preservation area at this point, and a 8-foot multi-use trail from the building following the curve in between the detention area tying into the trail at Southview Commerce Park with a stub into the single-family neighborhood. The lots and the blocks in the proposed subdivision do meet all requirements of the Unified Development Code. There will be appropriate streets and sidewalks on both sides of the street. Utility and easements are provided for, and detention for the single-family subdivision will be in this shared area-wide basin here on the open space tract. Again, the staff would conclude and recommend approval of the proposed Southview residential preliminary plat.
Okay, thank you, Director. And I know we do have the applicant here if there's any questions for either him or for the director from the commission. And if there are no questions, Mr. Trutzel.
Since you don't develop residential lots, when do you anticipate that you would be able to release those lots to a broker to sell those, or whatever the case might be? What kind of timeline are you thinking about?
Our goal would be to list them for sale as soon as possible, but one of the things that we want to do at the outset is make sure that we get building 4 under construction and get it finished before we do list those lots for sale. Again, you know, in full transparency to whoever would want to buy those lots, that they see the building there, they see the landscaping completed, they see the berm, and they know exactly what they're buying. I would suspect that you know, we have 2 courses of action we can take with it. We can sell directly to a single-family developer that would come in and build those streets and then build the houses or sell the lots. We can build the streets ourselves and sell the lots. So internally, we're still discussing, you know, it's not our expertise, single-family development, but, you know, certainly we built a lot of roadways and put in a lot of sewer and water. So, you know, we think that logically it might make sense for us to go ahead and build those streets, develop it, and then try to sell all the lots to a single builder.
The big issue is always the infrastructure anyhow, so
It
you've got the money to do it, so that would be a big boon to a developer.
Yeah, and, and to Mr. Clement's point, I would say that, part of the reason why we went from, what I counted up as, an existing, 47 lots down to 22 lots is simply because, the preservation of some of the existing trees that are there, we didn't put lots over those areas, where, for instance, on the cul-de-sac, we could have added some additional lots. And also, making the lots bigger than what was, previously platted, to try to be more consistent with, some of the existing homes in the area.
Thank you.
I did note that most of the lots, in fact, all of the lots basically are above what our minimum requirements are. And I think that is very great as well. Ms. Barton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There is one thing that I wanted to add. Oh gosh, where's the picture, Chris, of the water lines? I'm not quite sure where it's at in your presentation. Thanks, Ashley.
It's actually on, if I can run it here. Oh.
Can he drive the
I
bus?
don't think it's on Chris, is it?
Dave doing it? Okay.
There,
Oh, wait,
that was it.
there you go. One of the things that I wanted to clarify for council is, in looking at this project, we went back and forth quite a bit about this. If, one of the options that Northpoint had to them was to, oh gosh, Dave, could you run up the outer road where the water line currently is there between building 2 and 3? You can see the blue dash right there, where it stops there at the end. Stop there. They could have run it up a little bit further and then cut it into building 4. And one of the things that we asked them, because we know the condition of our water lines here, and we know that we wanted to replace Allen Avenue, because it is one of the probably worst cast iron lines in the city of Belton, was we asked them, instead of doing it that way, could they please look at running it up and down Allen Avenue and then extending it from Allen Avenue in from the east and go west into their building instead of doing it up the outer road, which would have saved them exponentially. And one of the things that we looked at was that we would look at a possible, public-private partnership in order to be able to have, with water lines for service, you don't want crisscrosses, you want loops, so that it provides better service. If something should happen, you still get service from the other direction. And so this is able to afford us a loop through this area. The city agreed to the partnership to run the water line down 162nd and just a little bit up Allen, and then they've agreed to run it all the way to 155th Street, and then in from 155th in, or from Allen in 157th. So it kind of makes a large T there. And so the amount of that for Northpoint's portion, he said, is just under $1 million, but the entire value of this project is almost $1.5 million of water lines, of which we are partnering with them. The city's portion is just under $500,000. That includes doing the water lines, and then, of course, redoing the road work afterwards. And that is exactly what Northpoint has agreed to do in that. So we went back and forth quite a bit on this water line, wanting to make sure that we could get the best bang for the city that we could. And I just wanted to clarify that, because this is at a time when we're trying to replace a lot of water line. This takes care of probably a good half mile, if not more, maybe a mile of water line for the city, and that's pretty big. So I know that Mr. Chancellor talked about it earlier, but I did want to make that clarification tonight.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Ms. Barton. All right, any additional comments, questions, motions? All right, thank you, Mr. Warren. And second from Mr. Trutzel. All right, one last time, any questions, comments before the vote? Seeing none, we have the roll call.
Commissioner Best?
Aye.
Commissioner Warren? Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Mayor Davis?
Aye.
Councilman Trutzel?
Aye.
And Chairman McPherson?
Aye. All right, thank you. Mr. Director, any report for us tonight?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a specific director's report for you, just, didn't want to update the same things we talked about 2 weeks ago. But our next meeting on April 19th, as the agenda indicates, we do have quite a few items coming forward on what did it say, April 19th? Yeah. April 19th.
April 19th.
Thank you. Yeah, that'll be our next meeting, and we'll have quite a long, lengthy agenda item for April 19th, so thank you.
All right. So after you get the taxes in, then we can come in
Yeah, there you go.
and unwind with a nice lengthy agenda. So, all right. I do appreciate all of your involvement tonight. I do appreciate those that came and spoke to the commission as well and brought your opinions. We do value those, and I appreciate you taking your time and coming and being a part of our meeting tonight as well. And to the developer, thank you for coming once again and sharing, and for one more opportunity that you have brought to our community that will, I think, in the long run, make a difference for our city, and I appreciate that. At this point, I guess I would take a motion. All right, we do have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion and second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we are adjourned. Thank you very much.